Ominous, synth-heavy music starts, then fades to a subtle, tense underscore. You see this gesture everywhere. In movies. On the highway. Maybe even in your own rearview mirror. The one-finger salute. The bird. A universal sign of, well, you know. But have you ever stopped to ask, if you've spent any time on the internet, you've probably heard the story. It's epic. It's badass. It goes like this: the 100 Years' War. England versus France. The English have a secret weapon, the longbow, and the master archers who wield it. The French, terrified of these archers, had a particularly nasty threat. They swore that any English bowman they captured would have his index and middle fingers chopped off. No fingers, no more shooting arrows. But then came the Battle of Agincourt. The English, outnumbered, achieved a stunning victory. And after the battle, the surviving English archers allegedly turned to the defeated French, held up their hands, and proudly displayed their intact middle fingers. They were saying, "See this? You didn't get me. I can still pluck the you." The pluck you gesture. It's a fantastic story of defiance, courage, and sticking it to the man. There's just one tiny problem. Music cuts abruptly. A deep, resonant sound effect like a vinyl record scratch. It's a complete and utter lie. A myth. A historical fan fiction you've been fed for years. The story of the English archers has absolutely zero evidence to support it. No credible historian, no medieval chronicle, not a single contemporary source mentions this gesture. In fact, the defiant gesture attributed to Agincourt was the two-fingered V sign. A completely different insult with its own complex history. So, if this heroic tale is fake, what's the real story? As always, the truth is much older, and much, much dirtier. To find it, we have to leave the muddy fields of France and travel back in time. Way back. To the cradle of Western civilization, ancient Greece. The Greeks didn't call it the bird. They called it the catapygon. And it wasn't a symbol of a warrior's defiance. It was explicitly phallic. The middle finger represented, well, the phallus. And the curled fingers on either side, you can use your imagination. One of the first recorded uses comes from the philosopher Diogenes. When asked to point out the great orator Demosthenes, Diogenes allegedly didn't use his index finger. He stuck up his middle finger, basically calling one of the most powerful men in Athens well, you get the idea. It was a grave, deeply personal insult. The Romans, who copied so much from the Greeks, loved this gesture. They called it the digitus imputicus, the impudent, or shameless, finger. The Emperor Caligula, known for his cruelty and insanity, would supposedly force his subjects to kiss his middle finger instead of his hand, a sign of ultimate degradation. So how did an ancient Roman phallic insult get mistaken for a medieval English war gesture? Well, after the fall of Rome, the gesture largely disappeared from historical records for 1,000 years. It likely survived in local cultures, but it wasn't widespread. Its grand re-entrance onto the world stage happens much later, and in a different place entirely. Jump to the late 19th century. America. It's believed the gesture was brought over by Italian immigrants, for whom the gesture, known as il dito, had never truly died out. And we have photographic proof of its first recorded use in the United States. This is it. 1886, a baseball game between the Boston Beaneaters and the New York Giants. A joint team photograph. And right there, plain as day, is pitcher Charles "Old Hoss" Radbourne, flipping off the cameraman from the other team. This is the patient zero of the middle finger in modern America. From there, it exploded. The 20th century, with its countercultures, its protests, and its media, turned the digitus imputicus into the global symbol of defiance we know today. It has nothing to do with brave archers and plucking you. It has everything to do with an ancient, obscene gesture that's more than 2,000 years old. So the next time you see it, or maybe even use it, forget the lie about the 100 Years' War. Remember Diogenes in the streets of Athens. Remember the shameless finger of the Romans. You're not continuing a legacy of medieval warriors, you're part of a much older, darker, and frankly, more interesting tradition. The truth is always hiding in the shadows. You just have to know where to hunt.